Hi, my name's Debbie. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here at Livingston, and I'm going to talk to you today about why funerals are essential. American culture has moved toward an avoidance of mourning and grief. And with that, there's been a decline in the ritual of the meaningful funeral. Rituals are symbolic activities that help us, often together with family and friends, to express our feelings about important events in life, and a loss is a very significant event. Dr. Alan Wolfelt, who's the director of the Center for Loss and Life Transition and a respected grief counselor, author, and educator, speaks extensively about the purpose of a funeral and why we need them. And I'll be referencing his research in this presentation. So, Dr. Wolfelt says the funeral ritual is a public, traditional, and symbolic means of expressing our beliefs, thoughts, and feelings about the death of someone we love. Rich in history and rife with symbolism, the funeral ceremony helps us acknowledge the reality of the death, gives testimony to the life of the deceased, encourages the expression of grief in a way consistent with the culture's values, provides support to mourners, allows for the embracing of faith and beliefs about life and death, and offers continuity and hope for the living. Dr. Wolfelt speaks about the purpose and benefits of authentic funeral ceremonies in the context of the 6 reconciliation needs of mourning, which are believed to be the most central in the healing of grief and which I will discuss. The first need is acknowledgement of the reality of the death. If we're to move forward with our grief, we must first acknowledge the finality of death. This happens in 2 parts. We acknowledge the death with our minds, meaning we can intellectually understand the fact of the death. Next is the acknowledgement of the reality of the death in our hearts. Funerals can help us in recognizing in our heart that someone we loved is now dead. Through the planning of the ceremony, viewing of the body, and when we see the casket being lowered into the ground, it's a reminder of the finality of the death. The second need is a moving toward the pain of the loss, the heart understanding I referenced earlier, which must be done to promote healing. Healthy grief means one can express painful thoughts and feelings, and funeral ceremonies allow us to do that. Funerals force us to concentrate on the reality of the death and our feelings, as people tend to cry and show emotion outside of themselves. Funerals also provide an accepted place for our painful feelings, as that may be the only time and place where society condones such openly outward expressions of our sadness. Need 3 is remembering our loved one who died. In order to heal in grief, we must shift our relationship with the person who died from one of physical presence to that of memory. A funeral encourages us to begin this shift, as it's a time for us to think about the moments we shared with the person who died. The funeral invites us to focus on our past relationship with that person and to share those memories with others. At many funerals, the eulogy highlights the major events in that person's life and their characteristics. Often after the funeral, many mourners will then share their memories of the person who died. The more we're able to tell the story of the death itself and our memories of the person who died, the more likely we are to reconcile our grief. Sharing memories at the funeral affirms the worth we have placed on that person, which can validate our pain at their loss. Need 4 is the development of a new self-identity. We are all social beings, and our lives are given meaning in relation to the lives of those around us. For example, you may be a mother, sister, daughter, and friend. When someone dies, your self-identity in those ways will change. As illustrated by a comment the bereaved often make, when he died, I felt like part of me died too. The funeral helps us begin this difficult process because it provides a public acknowledgement of our new roles. Others at the funeral acknowledge and support our new roles. If a funeral doesn't happen, the social group isn't given the opportunity to acknowledge and support our change in identity, and they don't know how to relate to the person who experienced the loss. This can make the mourner feel socially abandoned at a time when the realization that we literally still exist is needed. Mourning need 5 is the search for meaning. When someone dies, we can often question the meaning of life and death. We may ask, why did this person die? Why now? Why does it have to hurt so much? A funeral gives us time and opportunity to ask these questions and begin to find our way to answers that give us peace. By searching for meaning and allowing ourselves to find peace, we find purpose in continued living and can work toward reconciling ourselves to the loss we have suffered. The funeral reinforces the fact that we will die one day, as dying is a natural and unavoidable process. The funeral helps us search for meaning in the life and death of the person who died, as well as in our own lives and impending deaths. Funerals are a way we convey our beliefs and values about life and death. Having a funeral demonstrates that death is important to us. Mourning need number 6 is to receive ongoing support from others. Funerals are the public venue for offering support to others and to be supported in our grief. Funerals are a public statement that lets the community know that you welcome support. Without a funeral, others can tend to feel that the family wants to grieve privately and may keep their distance. Funerals are also a safe place to physically demonstrate our support in a society that tends not to be demonstrative. Funerals are a safe place for us to get our thoughts and emotions out. At funerals, we're allowed to embrace, touch, and comfort. And this physical support is one of the most important healing aspects of funeral ceremonies. We begin to put our grief in motion and create forward movement in the grief journey. And when we attend funerals, we let everyone there know that they are not alone in their grief. As all of this illustrates, the funeral is not the end of the grief journey, it is the beginning. Dr. Wolfelt sums it up this way: people who take the time and make the effort to create meaningful funeral arrangements when someone loved dies often end up making new arrangements in their own lives. They remember and reconnect with what is most meaningful to them in life. They strengthen bonds with family members and friends and emerge changed, more authentic, and purposeful. The best funerals remind us how we should live.